Yo, what up, world? 502 King Paul. The message of this video is the power of sexual discipline. The power of sexual discipline. The other day I'm on Facebook and I see a post from this young brother who he put up a post in an attempt to be funny, but you know, it was actually, you know, they say it's a little bit of truth in every joke. And he said that free sex scares me. Free sex scares me. No, I'm scared of a woman that doesn't want anything when we are about to have sex. And he was just saying, you know, you don't want a cheeseburger or nothing and all this. He went on to joke about it. But it reminded me of a conversation that I keep coming back to with one of my close friends where, you know, we're to the point now in our lives that, you know, all the games, all the stuff, you know, the games that you play as a young man, it starts to get played out after a while. It really starts to get played out. When you're young and, you know, your hormones just racing, you often find yourself in situations with women. You know, this goes the same for women as well. You find yourself in situations with men where you're solely just having a connection with someone based on sex, just strictly based on sex. And after so many times of doing that over and over and over again, you get to the place where you pretty much get fed up. You get fed up with yourself, you get fed up with your selection and people that you choose to date and have sex with. And you want better for yourself. You want to find that man. You want to find that woman. So often I hear there's no good men out here. There's no good women out here. They're very hard to find. But a lot of times what people find themselves doing is jumping into bed with people way too soon. Way too soon. The flesh is very weak. And I've realized this, and I've lived this myself, where the flesh is just very weak. We find ourselves making very bad decisions in partners solely based on our physical attraction to that person. But physical attraction is not what makes a relationship last. And the older you get, or the more experience that you gain, and mistakes that you make in relationships or just dealing with people, you realize that you can be with the finest woman in the world. You can be with the most handsome, well put together man in the world. But if that attraction does not go deeper than surface level, then the relationship won't last. It won't last at all. You'll find yourself dealing with people solely based on your sexual attraction, to later find out that you and this person are not compatible on a lot of levels. You'll find yourself jumping into bed with someone, creating a soul tie in one night, and then fighting for years to try to break that soul tie. There's so many people that fall for the game that's ran at the beginning of the relationship. And men are very good at this, but this goes the same for women as well. You find yourself in a situation where you may have thought that you were vetting this person and you know who this person is and what their intentions are. But when you go a month, 2 months, 3 months, some people can even keep up their game, their facade for a year. For a year. And you think that you know this person, but you know nothing about them. You don't know who they are spiritually. You haven't asked the right questions to figure out if you two share the same vision in life. And I mean vision on a multitude of levels. A vision as far as, you know, what kind of family do you want? What kind of family structure dynamic do you want? What kind of marriage do you see yourself in? What do you expect from your partner? What do you expect to give to your partner? Are you able to support me in my dreams? Can I support you in your dreams? Very simple things like this, people just breeze on over because they're rushing to get to the bedroom. You know, me and my partner, we have that talk quite often, again, about just disciplining yourself sexually to make room for the right person in your life. When you don't stop living in a way where you're sexually loose with your body, you take away the opportunity to meet the right person. You take away the opportunity to really get to know that person when you're rushing to the bedroom. See, sex, the reason why it's dangerous to have sex so early on is because once you have sex with someone, you become blind. You become confused. See, once you make that soul tie bond with someone, you're unable to see past the sex. You know, I've put up videos before kind of, talking around this subject. The Jezebel soul tie, the soul tie video I made years ago. But I've never quite went this much in depth with it. And I want to make sure that I am hitting on all the points in this video. But when you decide that this woman's so fine, this man's so fine, I'm so physically attracted to this person, and you rush into that bedroom situation with them, you rob yourself of the ability to see them clearly. You rob yourself of the ability. So many people are hung up on physical attraction. And don't get me wrong, physical attraction is very important. I realize that you cannot even start to build up a relationship with someone if you're not physically attracted to them. But if y'all go back and watch, there's a video that I posted before in the past called They're Not My Type. Some of the best relationships that I've had in my life were with people who would be considered not my type. And not just on a physical level, but not what I'm used to as far as character traits, values, morals. They came from a different cloth. And had I not put myself out there and taken that chance, because I wouldn't really call it a risk, but taking that chance to get to know that person, I never would have been able to experience these good relationships. I never would have been able to experience the good times that I had with that person, those people, I should say. When you're only looking at flesh, you're bound to fall, man. You're bound to fall. There's so many people that I know personally that have children. They brought life into the world and barely knew the person that they chose to have a child with. Barely knew them. I'm talking men and women. Because they got hung up on the sexual attachment early on and wasn't asking the right questions. They weren't asking, well, what are your spiritual beliefs? Okay, that's number one, because you have to be equally yoked. What are your spiritual beliefs? You can't be a Christian and be trying to have a relationship with a Muslim. And I know people who've done that. That's where you go the wrong way. You can't be a Christian and be trying to have a relationship with a Buddhist. You're going to clash on many levels. So that's number one. You have to make sure that you're equally yoked. Number two, you have to figure out, do you all share the same vision for family, for finances? If this person is trying to live way up here and you're okay being right here, you don't have to have the Rolls Royce. You don't have to have the mansions. You don't have to have this. But the person who you're talking to, they want this. They want it badly. Then you have to think that you two probably don't share the same, what is the word I'm looking for here? You two don't have the same values in life. Vision often equates to your values. Now, if you value material things and the person who you're with is okay with just, living a meager life, this is probably not the person for you, because you're going to clash. You're going to want them to meet you on that level. and they're not going to be comfortable going to that level with you. See, some people should just be friends, straight up and down. They should just be friends. You know, that should be no more than a friendship. And oftentimes, because we're sexually attracted to someone, we feel the need to progress it into a relationship. Because she's fine, she got a nice body, you know, she's thicker than a can of peanut butter, I gotta have her. Because he's fine and he's chiseled up and he has a nice body, a nice smile, a nice whatever, I gotta have this person. See, one thing that I learned is the flesh is weak. I'm speaking from experience, because like I said, I've had my nice run with just running through different women, not treating them correctly, not really taking that time to get to know them like I should have before just hopping in the bed with them and creating a soul tie. But so what I've learned from doing that is the flesh is very weak. So you have to make the spirit strong. The spirit has to be strong. Because the spirit is going to let you know whether you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing. A lot of times when you're around people, when you speak to people, your spirit will send off signals to your brain, letting you know this isn't the right situation. Or your spirit will let you know that this is the right situation. This is the right person. This is a person that I can really build with. A lot of times once you have sex with someone, you start tricking yourself into thinking that you love this person, that you can build with this person, but you're not seeing past the sex. I'm gonna tell you something, man. Going back to what I said earlier, men, especially, women, they can put on an act for a while. Eventually, because women like to talk a lot more than men, they tend to tell on themselves through what it is that they're saying. But men can put on an act for a very long time. I'm gonna share you a quick story with y'all here. When I was younger, I dated a young woman. Now, I mean much younger. I was under 18. I dated a woman that she just did not want to have sex, which was very understandable at that age. You know, there were less people having sex than as an adult man. So I was okay with that, somewhat, because I had already lost my virginity at a certain age, a young age, and, you know, so that was a desire of mine, especially losing your virginity at such a young age. Your flesh is tempted left and right. Now, every time that you encounter a relationship with someone, a possibility of a relationship, you're going to be thinking about sex. So back into the story. She didn't want to have sex. We were dating, young, very young. I mean, neither one of us were even driving at this point. However, I held out for 1 year, almost exactly 1 year. And was I faithful during that time? No, I was not. But in her mind, I had been faithful to her during that time. Now, when a year mark hit, we had sex. And that relationship did not last very much longer. Why do I tell you this story? I tell you this story because people can put on an act, especially men, until they get what they want. I know of a lot of men and women that deal with people that they're not even really attracted to outside of sex, yet they choose to deal with this person. I know of men, and I've heard of men, I've had this conversation, and I've been this way myself, where you actually don't even like a woman. Don't like how she talks, don't like her character, don't like how she chews her food, doesn't like how she does anything really, and they will ignore all of this. Like I said, I've been in this position before too. They'll ignore all of this. They'll ignore all the signs of crazy. I've dealt with 10 10 different kinds of crazy in one woman just for the sole purpose of having sex. It just shows you how weak the flesh is, and that people make horrible decisions based on sex. Why do I put out this video? Because I see how society is, and I know that people want to have healthy relationships, but we don't realize that some of the actions that we take are sabotaging any chance of ever having that. Just because you're horny, just because you're lonely, doesn't mean that you need to just hop in the bed with someone. When you learn how to discipline yourself sexually, you can see clearly who a person is. At the point that I'm at in my life right now, I'm able to see things a lot more clearly than what I was able to as a younger man. Meaning, I can have a conversation with a woman and ask certain questions and really listen to the responses, pay attention to the responses. And I can tell that that relationship would go nowhere based on where I'm at now in my life. I can ask certain questions, and based on the responses that I get, I can tell that, I can notice the red flags very early on. The slightest signs of disrespect, I'm out. Slightest sign of disrespect. Because relationships are built on respect. If someone can't respect you, then they can't love you. And respect, unless you just come across a person that is just a broken person in general, is something that is given as a reflection of how you see yourself, if that makes sense. If you respect yourself and you are not willing to bend or fold your morals, your values, you're not going to tolerate anyone disrespecting you on any level. Someone who gives their body away so freely, they don't respect themselves. That's why, as a young man, I used to tell women, and I don't know if I really believed this or if it was just a line at the time, but I used to say to women that, I could still have a good relationship with you if we have sex early. And it may have just been a line or something that I convinced myself of at that time. If we have sex very early, then I'll have a relationship with you. And at the time, I had a couple of relationships that were just like that. We had sex very early on. I mean, we dated for a week and had sex. We dated for a month and had sex. And I'm telling you this for a reason. Because when I was a child, I thought like a child. I talked like a child. I moved like a child. When I became a man, I put aside my childish ways. So as a man, I no longer had that same thought process. And any other man who I've spoken with has the same thought process that they live their life by. If a woman has sex with you or is willing to have sex with you very early, and this goes the same way for women, anyone else can have sex with that person just as easily as you did. All they got to do is say the right things, tread lightly, not say anything stupid to mess it up or throw up a red flag, and you can get that person, him or her, into a bedroom. You can get that person into a position to where you can create a soul tie with them solely based on a week or a few months of conversation. Based on what I know now in my life, a month, 2 months, 3 months, that's not long enough of a time period. Sometimes even a year, it's not long enough of a time period for you to really get to know a person. I mean, really get to know a person. Because like I said, they can go on and put the act on for a while, but eventually that mask is going to fall off. And you don't want that mask to fall off after you've already been bonded to this person sexually. No, you want to ask those probing questions. You want to pay attention to what your spirit's saying when you're dealing with certain people, when you're talking to certain people. Because we all have moments when we're talking to someone and we get that feeling, that jump feeling inside of us. It's just something just hit your spirit on the inside that tells you that ain't right. That response was weird. When you grow in spirit, you start to trust your intuition a lot more as a person. When you grow in spirit, you won't ignore red flags. When you have sex with someone extremely early on in the relationship, you will make excuses for the red flags that you see in your life. You will make excuses when you're talking to that person and something happens and you're just like, wow, that was crazy. Or, you just get that feeling like, that's weird. You won't ignore stuff like that. Like I said, I'm to the point now I can have one conversation most of the time and ask the right questions, and you'll know that this is someone that you don't want to be tied to. Another reason why it's important to be sexually disciplined is when you are sexually loose with your body, you're having sex with any old man, any old woman who you're physically attracted to. You're going to find yourself, as you keep on living your life like that, it's going to be harder for you to bond with someone. It's going to be much, much harder for you to bond with someone on an intimate sexual level. Because once you start to tie your soul to so many other ties, you're going to find that when you do find that person who could potentially be your next husband or your next wife, it's going to be hard for you to have that emotional, intimate bond with that person when you start having sex. Because now at this point, not only are you used to having all different kinds of sex with all different kinds of people, now you have that burden on your soul. When you have all those ties and people tied to you, man or woman, it's going to make it hard for you to be monogamous in a relationship. It's going to be hard for you to not have wandering eyes, wondering what other sex is out there, because you're so used to having all of these different sexual partners. Now, men do this a lot, but we live in a world now where women are also starting to do this. They're starting to mimic what it is that men do. How it is that men carry themselves, women are tending to carry themselves the same way as well. Well, it's just casual sex. It's just a friend with benefits. And you can keep telling yourself this over and over and over again until you're blue in the face. There's no such thing as friends with benefits and that's actually going to benefit you. When you start creating these soul ties with people and you don't even know them, because a lot of times you don't truly know anything about this person beyond the surface level. Whatever it is that they're telling you out of their mouth and whatever it is that they look like, you're just taking that for face value and you're like, okay, let's roll with that. He seems like a good man. Don't know too much about him on a deep level, but he seems like a good man. So, I've heard that he's a decent guy. Let me try this out. And there's nothing wrong with that. Try it out. Date. Because you're dating, hopefully, for a long-term relationship. You're dating for marriage. But when you throw sex into that equation, you're going to throw off the balance and you're going to hold yourself back from meeting the right person. Don't end up in one of these situations where you're jumping into sex and then years later, you're trying to figure out, how did I get here? How did I get inside this toxic relationship? How did I end up making a child with this person who I do not know? How did I end up with this abusive man, with this abusive woman? How did I end up in this situation? How did I end up with someone who does not see my value? It's because you did not take the time and you solely went out for sex. I'm going to cut this video off right here, man, but I just want to put out this message, and I pray that this message impacts people in a positive way, that this message is inspirational for those of you who are trying to find the right man, trying to find the right woman in life. It takes sexual discipline for one. And that's just part of the equation. But a lot of people, they jump past that. You know, they start getting into the sex and trying to feel good, only to be hurt later on. Creating a soul tie to fight for years to try to break that soul tie. So hopefully it's something I got from this video that helped y'all out, man. If y'all like anything about it, go down below, like the video, leave a comment, let me know what you think. It's 502 King Power. I love y'all. Y'all have a blessed day. I'm out.